They are. They say one apple equals the energy of one coffee.
Well, there you go. I'm never going to give you trouble for eating apples, Mike. It's better than eating granola bars.
Don't make
like
me
I
take
tell my
another
children.
bite, Trev.
Okay,
damn, episode 12.
Oh.
Yeah. All right, here we are.
I think we're live. Hold on a second. I got to click a couple buttons first.
We're extremely conscious men, and we're always aware of when we're live or not. Okay, we knew what was happening.
Yeah, we know it. And that was just like dad joke supreme right there, too, right?
That's it.
We shouldn't give our secrets away, actually.
No. I did hear a good dad joke the other day, Trev. We should hear it before we start this.
Yes, go.
What do you call a magical dog?
Not sure.
A labracadabra doodle.
Oh, snap.
Right? Where's our drummer in the background going?
I got to get that mixer board going. Yeah.
Yes.
Hey.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll be here all day. All day.
Yeah. Well, keep compiling them. I'm sure there's an extremely conscious dad book in the future here as well.
There is.
Wouldn't put it past us.
But episode 12 of the Extremely Conscious Man story. For those who have not joined us before, Trev and I are talking about the journey from meeting on the mean streets of West Kelowna and Glen Rosa, pushing our double wide strollers, to how we created a men's retreat. And, what's happened since then, and how Trev's moved his family to Costa Rica, and all the things that are unfolding in between.
That's right. And it's just for anybody that's not clear, too. This is the messy, dirty truth, too. We're not sugarcoating and saying that all of this stuff has just magically appeared in front of us and been seamless and perfectly easy. And we got nothing else to do because, quite frankly, it's the opposite. We've got absolute chaos in our lives every single day, but we just choose to navigate it in a different way. And that wasn't the case even a year and a half ago. But that's why we're doing it, though, too, is that we knew that we wanted to constantly elevate, and we knew that that was going to cause some discomfort, and we weren't sure who was going to come with us either, but it's been pretty magical, man, to see the people that have shown up, right?
Absolutely. It makes me think of Field of Dreams. If you build it,
they will come.
They will come, and we did the reverse. We kind of called them in, and then we're building as we go, but same thing. Same thing.
Well, that's a bit of the entrepreneur in both of us too. It's get the plane up off the ground and then figure out how to put that engine on the right side wing. Obviously, you need the left side one just to get it off the ground, but the right side one, we'll do that one when we got it up in the air.
You need the pilot first, and we're the pilots, and we created an intention is what we created, and the rest is building itself around that day by day.
Yeah, and on that note, so where we left off last time was talking about the inner circle, and I think last time we were intending on really getting into the details about the inner circle, but there was still so much to talk about what went down in January, kind of leading up to it. And where we left off, though, was basically the end of January, where we were just about to get started. So we had 11 guys. Did we have 11 guys or 12 guys start with us in the inner circle? I can't remember
11, now. I believe.
11.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had 11 guys start with us, and we officially began everything that we were committed to doing together on February 6th. It was a Sunday, held a group call. There's a lot of nervous anticipation, both on our side and the guys, because each one of them stepped in without really knowing exactly what we were doing. I know we put a page together and we had some guidelines on what we envisioned that this would be, but the foundation of it was we wanted to just grow together with other men that were also committed to leaning into the same stuff that we were, which was let's break down to the foundations of what ultimately gets us to this desired state of being, which is the daily micro actions that make us better human beings, get us in better shape, allow us to have more energy, to feel more connection with our family, with our spouses, and even our own spiritual journeys too, like starting to lean in and into journaling and breath work and meditation and all of that stuff. So that first call, maybe recap what your recollection was of that first call too, because I know each one of us probably has a different experience related to that.
You kind of nailed it in why we created this and why we started it and what the first call was about. It was, ultimately we created this space because it's something that we desired to be a part of, and we knew there was other men out there striving and looking for it. And so that first call we had, I would say, many big ideas and plans, but lack thereof as well, because we went through motions of, oh man, we need to get really strategic on this. We should have this, we should have that, we should that, this. And then, we checked ourselves and we stepped outside of it and said, wait a minute, like we haven't even got all these guys together before. Let's just embrace what arises. Let's everybody introduce, slow down, and let's everybody introduce themselves. So we had these ideas of what we wanted to bring to it and what we wanted it to be. But what we wanted it to be was perfectly imperfect, and allow it to unfold exactly as it did, which was, just men starting to connect in this energetic way and share what they wanted it to be as well. And we only got to learn that by creating the space and allowing them to speak out loud. And so really, it was just creating that container in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then of course we set a few foundational aspects to what the inner circle was going to look like going forward, knowing that it would shape and shift as we went along. And those foundational pieces were, of course, the habit tracker, which we talked about on the last live that we did. And that had those 8 or so foundational ones, just like we just mentioned. And then each of the guys added a couple more in there as well, whatever was most important to them at the time. And we capped it at that, because that was one of the things you and I experienced in December and January previous to that, was we went a little overboard. I think we put like 20 or 30 different micro actions on our sheet, because we thought, dude, we're high performers. Like, I'm going to do all of this stuff. Yeah, and we saw very quickly how scattered that spreadsheet looked like, because we've kept this very beta. We didn't build any fancy apps or anything like that. Eventually we will. But right now it was just what we measure we can improve. So let's just go and make sure that we're keeping track of things. And that was met with some resistance up front even too, by some guys. Some guys were just like ready for it. They leaned right into it. But let's maybe talk about the first couple of days even too, because we also set up a communication channel, and we just decided on WhatsApp as well. Again, this is all going to evolve, but the WhatsApp channel, you and I decided that we would do some prompts, some morning activations, and then some evening reflections. And again, I had a desire, and I think you did maybe a little bit too, of, man, we got to like pre-think all of these. What are we going to talk about? What should we ask these guys? Are we going to ask them to do something? Are we just going to ask them to respond to something? And then eventually we just kind of surrendered to that and said, no, we just do whatever feels right. But let's speak about that first week, though, because it was really interesting to see the dynamics of what showed up with everybody. Maybe you want to riff on that.
Yeah, it was. And before we go into that, too, on the habit tracker, that our habit tracker that we use is available for everybody to see. That's important to understand. So the other elements we add on there that they choose to add on there based on the desires coming up in their life are everybody, all the other men can see. So there's a huge accountability piece there. But prior to that, I mean, getting started, there was a lot of resistance, and you and I had resistance as well. We wanted to create this in Facebook first as a first step, because it was an easy place to get this together. And then we both explored, do we want to do it there? And we felt resistance from the other members. I left Facebook a long time ago because of X. I don't want to go back on, even if I make a new login, blah, blah, blah. So there was that piece. And then then it was our WhatsApp group was another piece I remember where, I can't listen to all these messages that the other men are dropping. We have to check in twice a day. I can't read all this. I can't do all this. It was an automatic, just like this resistance of overload. And, so we really had to break it down and define that. And, also, early in the process, we had to refer back to an oath, which we all spoke out loud and signed, because we committed to one another. And so when, early in the process, we had to check one another and say, listen, this is what we committed to. We didn't commit to 3 days of, this is too much, or this doesn't feel right, or where's the structure or the program, and then run away. We committed to leaning into this process. And so we really simplified it with our daily check-ins. We have a morning and an evening, as Trev said, and some were really overthinking it. We said, you know what, if you're not feeling the question or the reflection or the small action that is being put forward, then simply jump on and leave us a voice note and say checking in. So it was just creating that accountability, that check-in point for the human themselves to show up twice a day. And if they wanted to let us know how they felt, go ahead or answer a prompt or reflection or action. Otherwise, just let us know you're there. And I think that's where, for some, it allowed them to continue the process and fight through their initial resistance, which we know was a story anyways. And they later learned that. But that was just one piece of resistance. Yeah, I'm sure you have others that come to mind, but.
Yeah, well, and the thought of it is just, if we put ourselves in their shoes too, there was a lot of empathy there because we thought that's exactly how I would react to this too. Even as we're creating it, we're starting to tell ourselves, do we got time for that? And then we kind of shake our heads and go, wait a second. Of course we do. This is why we created this again, right? We're not talking about a lot of time. We're talking maybe 10 minutes a day by the time you read something and then reflect back on it. Now, if you start consuming everybody else's shares, now it starts to get a little bit more time consuming. But what people started to find over time was that the shares that other people were contributing were some of the biggest breakthrough opportunities for everybody else. Yes. So you didn't even have to really lean in and share. If you were listening to other people and what was coming up for them and some of the breakthroughs that they were having along the way, you just by proximity had a very similar experience, even though we're all living different lives, because all of these guys are scattered all over the place. There's guys from Western to Eastern Canada. We got one guy that's down in Mexico. I'm down in Costa Rica, of course. We got one guy on the Western side of the US as well. One guy on the Eastern side of the US. So everybody's in different time zones and we're all living different lives too. There is some commonalities. And we didn't actually even discover how many commonalities there were until we were about 6 weeks in, I want to say. There was some connection being built. And we all kind of felt like, all right, we're all dudes and we're high achieving and aspiring to be better. And that's what brought us here. And then after a handful, because I think we're about 3 or 4, maybe we're on to our 4th group call now. But on the 3rd one, there was an unlock. There was a deeper connection that everybody felt where it was like, oh, damn. Yeah, we've all shared similar backgrounds as well.
Yes, yeah, that was a big one when we started to really dive into our stories. And as you say, these voice notes are where that became apparent too. We started to see these little synchronicities between everybody's challenges, even if you're in a job versus your own business, and you have kids or you don't. We still all face the similar challenges, but in that call, it was pretty incredible to see that one common thread that we all come from broken homes. We all of our parents divorced at some stage or another. And it was interesting because I don't think we realized that during the call. It was afterwards we reflected. And to me, I want to share the most beautiful thing I found about that is that we're still here. We're doing this. This is our mission, what we're doing, because, you hear so many stories of why not, of that being a reason, or what happened after that being the reason, or how many of us, have really come from very little, financially, and the opportunities that really weren't there in front of us, but we had to choose to take the steps and the daily micro actions to get to where we are now. And we're still doing it, even though we got to places individually that really serve and have created enough. We're looking for what else there is, and not from a place of, this isn't good enough. But we know in here we have more to give, and that, there's greatness all around us if we truly look, and that we're all striving for big ideas, big dreams, to help create change in this world. So it was really cool. That was my kind of light that I saw afterwards, and neatness that when I reflected on that call.
Yeah, man, we put it right on our landing page for the retreat in Costa Rica. To the driven man, if you desire to have it all in life, you get to fill your cup first. And in order to fill that cup, you have to acknowledge and accept where you've come from and what's brought you to this place, and be grateful for all of it. And that was the slow peeling of the onion that we've experienced just in 2 short months with all of these guys, is that that a little bit of kind of resistance up front of, geez, I don't even know if this is right for me. I still remember Will, for example, thinking, I don't even know if I'm supposed to be here, guys. But, and whatever the reason was, there was a lot of different pieces of like, yeah, I'm willing to give it a shot. And then I even think of Alfred too. We just had him on the podcast. We're introducing everybody to the guys. And he was somebody within the first few days who really leaned into sharing. And some guys didn't like the approach of it. And they pushed back. And now I remember you and I talking to him. We're like, all right, it's on. Let's go. Here we go. It's time to have some real conversations, because it's so easy to just sit back and talk about this change that we desire to see in the world and be that person sitting on the couch eating Doritos and chirping at the TV. But like, what if we actually go and show up and be a part of the change and lead by example, which means leaning into uncomfortable conversations, being willing to be able to receive feedback, not in a negative way or in any kind of way that to put a person down, but rather to lift them up. And I remember Alfred even saying, and he talked about it on the last interview that we did, that there was a lot of stigma in his own mind about how he was raised and his family upbringing of like, this is how we are. We are we're a stubborn concrete group of guys. Yeah.
Blue collared workers, kind of work we work our ass off.
And that's it. And then eventually one day, and it's never one particular thing that all of a sudden just triggers it. It's a series of events. It's listening to things. It's opening your mind to certain stuff. A lot of times it's a breakdown, and that's what Alfred even talked about, was he hit a point where he just realized like, man, I can't keep doing this. I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to burn myself out. And then you commit to creating change. And I think one of the biggest things that I'll say about this too is that I knew when I listened to Joe Dispenza's talks and his books and stuff, where he spoke about creating change in a state of pain and suffering, like disease or death, even, death around you, or doing it from a state of happiness and joy and bliss. Why would we not do it in that state versus when we're forced to? And I think every single guy aligns with that. And that's why we're here, because there's not one guy that's in our space here in the inner circle that's really struggling, like everybody's doing pretty good by societal standards.
Yep.
But they're committed to continuing to grow, because we know if we don't grow, then we're slowly dying. And we all know that we're going to die eventually one day. But you like to say this all the time, and it's so true. What about truly living? This is why we're here. This is why the inner circle exists.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, I just kept hitting me as you were talking there. I just did my why video for a retreat upcoming, and these are many of the reasons right here, right? Is the call in to the men out there and those that are in this inner circle. And we all experience the resistance that we witnessed in the beginning of this. We all do. It doesn't go without it. The journey doesn't. But I love that you just brought up that other piece of Joe Dispenza too, of, creating suffering, or creating this change from a place of suffering, or creating it because we strive for it. And that might involve suffering and pain. And I can say for the two of us that we've both had, part of why we've created this is from a place of suffering, things we've been through. And we had choices to either let that consume us and pull us down essentially, or choose the other direction, which isn't as easy either, but it brings us to this lighter place, and it's brought us to what is today. And that's, the choice I know both you and I make now, and what we're trying to influence to others is that they don't have to go through the pain. They don't have to go through that life-changing thing where they have no choice but to, go here or here. Instead, you can choose this path prior to that, and then when life does serve us these moments, you're well more prepared for it, because you have the tools in your toolbox. You've created the presence and the ability to observe and all the other, pieces that come along with it. But so I appreciate you sharing those points, because I think they're so powerful in what we're doing and what all the men that are in the inner circle and have stepped forward for the retreat outside of it embody or are wanting to embody.
Yeah, it's about turning that pain into purpose, right? And a lot of times it's until you get to that place. And we can both just speak from personal experience now because we've been through this. Until you accept that and you surrender to it, there's a part of you that just says, no, man, I'm not accepting the fact that I failed at this or that happened to me or whatever. I'm going to, hold on to that. And I'm going to use it almost as my shield, my armor, right? Nobody will ever hurt me again. The world will never hurt me again. But we know that life happens. You're going to lose people in your life. You're going to have things that'll happen that you don't plan for. It's certain. It's guaranteed.
Yep.
So the work that we're doing here is really shedding that armor and putting on a layer of acceptance and surrender so that you know that no matter what happens, you can navigate it. And I think I haven't listened to your why video yet, but I know I talked about it in mine today because both of us committed to creating these today. I said that it's very easy for each one of us and all the guys here to just shut down and go internal and just go at this life by ourselves. We're very capable people. We can take care of ourselves. We can take care of our families. We can, provide. We can do all of those things. But man, can we go farther when we do it together. And there's an energy and a power that happens when you meet in person as well that just roots connection.
Yep.
Where you know that at any given time, if you got an idea, and I even remember our last retreat, and nothing's materialized from this yet, but everybody was talking business ideas like, man, wouldn't it be cool if we went and started a cold plunge company? I wonder if we could do that. And who knows if that will be the thing, but these are the kind of things that are happening when we get into these spaces is we throw out that big idea. I was thinking, and somebody else picks it up and says, I was thinking the same thing too. And now we move and things happen. That's how this stuff works. So that's another reason why we created this. And let's maybe wrap on that, man, because I know we're getting a little longer on this one. But why don't you give the final little plug here for the retreat, because I'm fired up and I've been talking about it a lot today.
Of course, yeah. For those who don't know yet, if you're following Trev and I, it should be pretty apparent. But there is our Extremely Conscious Man experience next month in Costa Rica. April 24th to 28th, we still have spots left. So the call is out to bring in some other extremely conscious men that are willing to be accountable for where they're currently at in their lives and where they want to go, and meet some of the men, as Trev said, with big ideas that are already coming to the retreat, and the facilitators that we've locked in that are, even more powerful. Some of which are also participants, which is the amazing part about what we're creating here, is we strive for the men that are a part of all this to bring out their gifts as well constantly. So if there's any questions, reach out to us, but otherwise extremelyconscious.com.
Go check it out. We're updating things every single day, and Mike and I are putting out all kinds of content that is not only for anybody that's watching here right now, but perhaps a guy in your life that needs to hear one of these messages that we're going to put out. Please share it with them. This is another huge part of why we're showing up as much as we are right now and creating and putting out this message, because everybody knows a guy that's ready for this kind of a tribe, that's looking for it but doesn't know where to find it. So we're putting our hands up over here, being like, yo, we're up to some big shit over here.
We're over here.
Come join us. All right, brother. Thanks
Tons
again.
of love, guys. Thanks for tuning in.